We all know that UFC 310 is fucking stacked, and I love it. All right, we've had some really good pay-per-views this year, but as for the pay-per-views in 2025, we really don't know anything. I mean, what are we going to get before GTA 6? You know what I mean? Because we have a few fights announced for like a February fight night, a few for 311, and some January fight nights, but the big three pay-per-views that are going to start off the next year, we don't really have shit for, kind of just a lot of rumors. So today I'm going to be building a realistic but kind of dream-like UFC 311, 312, and 313. I know 311 is probably going to be in Cali. I know 312 is going to just got announced for Sydney. And then we have 313. I don't think there's a location for that yet. So basically, just jumping into this, right, we're going to be starting with 311. The main event that I think should be made, Makhachev versus Tsarukyan 2. I'm not going to talk about this too much because I feel like we already kind of know that this is the fight that's being set up to be the main event. I know people are kind of talking about Makhachev versus Topuria right now, and that's a great fight. It's a dream fight, but I feel like we're going to get that eventually. Maybe not. Depends on who you ask. But as for this fight itself, I mean, there's no other clear contender in this division besides Tsarukyan. I mean, what is he even going to do after? Or if he beats Tsarukyan, what's he even going to do after that? The only one left is if Chandler beats Oliveira. And not only is that not likely, but if Chandler gets a fucking title shot in 2025, then we are fucked. We're fucked. But yeah, this is a great fight. It's a compelling matchup. I think most people are going to lean towards Makhachev, but you're going to see great displays on the feet and on the ground. So excited for this one. Worthy of being the main event. The co-main, it gets tricky, but I'm going to be going with Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, I know Umar kind of wanted to fight in December and couldn't find anybody, and he wants to kind of get one more fight in before Ramadan. Dvalishvili's kind of ducking him, blah, 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 blah. So I think this is the fight that should be made. I know Dvalishvili doesn't want to make a quick of a turnaround. I know we just saw Bilal try to do that, and he just fucking pulled out, unfortunately, because that was going to be a great fight. But, a 4-month turnaround, yeah, it's kind of quick, but it's possible. And I feel like this is the fight to make, and I just don't know what Merab's going to do next. I mean, he could face Figgy, or, the winner of Figgy versus Jan, but the whole, timeline of everything is just so weird right now because they're fighting in late November, so they'd have to make an even faster turnaround. It just kind of fucks everything up, and Umar would need another opponent in the meantime, so it just depends what they're going to want to do, but Dana's made it super clear that he wants Umar next. Ideally, this would be going down in January, otherwise I don't really know what's going to happen with it, but this is the fight to make. It's really compelling. I know both guys don't have, the big personalities. Hey guys, I worked so hard for this. Hey guys. Okay. But it is a very championship level fight. Having Makhachev and Nurmagomedov fight on the same card as well, I feel like it makes sense. And we're going to witness elite high level grappling. Exchanges on the feet. I mean, I think Umar's got the clear edge. So overall, it's a really intriguing fight. So moving on, I guess what should be the feature bout. You could change the fucking order to whatever. So up next, we're going to be booking the featherweights. We have Yair Rodriguez versus Arnold Allen. This is a scrap, man. I mean, you have Yair's super fun skills on the feet versus Allen, who's really, Allen could hold his own on the ground, but he's not going to take him there. And honestly, this is just a fun fight. We haven't seen Yair. I mean, Rodriguez just isn't the most active fighter. Allen kind of wants to get after it. He fights pretty frequently, so it's just mix them up. Yair's kind of maintained that top 5 spot for a few years, and I feel like he's kind of been going down a little bit of a skid, so let's try and, he's got to kind of fight people that are kind of outside the usual range, and Allen is elite. Allen's in the top 7 himself, I believe, and if Allen wins, you really got to consider giving him a title eliminator next. So it makes sense rankings-wise. These featherweights, these top featherweights, they got to fight each other. So moving on, I got a bantamweight bout for y'all. So I have Corey Sandhagen versus Henry Cejudo. Now, I really want to see Sandhagen versus O'Malley, but O'Malley doesn't want to fight till the summer, so now we're here. I know Sandhagen wants to be active. He's gone on record and even saying it, especially after, waiting for so long for Umar, and then that didn't work out. He wants to be active. And I know not all of it's all, on Umar, because Umar pulled out because Corey got hurt himself. So that whole situation was fucked. Sandhagen was an active fighter before that. He wants to get back after it. And, give him Cejudo. It's a winnable fight for Cejudo. It's a winnable fight for Sandhagen. And if Sandhagen beats him, he can get the ball rolling again because he was on a good win streak before. And Cejudo's a big name, former champion. And for Cejudo, he needs to get the fucking ball rolling himself. I mean, 0-2 in his last 2. Then again, to the former bantamweight champ Sterling and to the now bantamweight champ Merab. It's not like Cejudo even looked awful in those fights, but it's just, we're painfully reminded that him retiring super early was just, he just fucked up. He fucked up because now he's in situations like this, man, and he could be 0-3. I feel like any of the top 10 could really present problems to him, but he is really good, and he's still in it. I think that's part of what makes this fight so intriguing. Cejudo can't be counted out just yet, and I want to see how Cejudo's pressure and offensive wrestling can do against Sandhagen's new improved defensive wrestling. So it'll be fun exchanges on the ground, and I feel like Corey might piece him up on the feet, but it moves both of these guys forward, which is the biggest thing. So moving on, Colby Covington versus Ian fucking Gary, dude. Let's just get it over with. God damn. I mean, Colby didn't fight this year. Again, he almost didn't fight last year. He fought last December. Before that, he fought once. And then it's just, this once a year shit, and now it's 0 times a year. This is where we're fucking at. Injuries? No, I don't know. Does anybody know? It's just, this guy just doesn't fight. It's so fucking frustrating because you want to invest and you want him to be the big heel of the UFC because he is a draw, but it's just like you can only draw so much when you don't fight. And he's clearly just ducking people. You know, you have Dana and he'll look out for him and he's like, we don't have people duck each other here. These guys are badass, man. Kobe's a warrior. Like, whatever the fuck, all right? Gary's wanted this fight. Gary's signed the fucking contract allegedly or whatever, and Kobe didn't take it. And now Gary might step in to face Shavkat. And you know what? If he does, at least Gary wants to fight people. I don't like Gary, all right? Ian Gary is probably one of the most dislikable people on the entire roster, but what I will say about him that I really respect is that he's down to fucking fight any of the contenders. He wants Shavkat. He wants JDM, Usman, you know, he took on MVP, took on Jeff Neal, took on Neil Magny. Like, I'm not scared of anyone. He's not scared of anyone, you know what I mean? Kind of mixed up that Darren Till in there, but he's not scared of anyone. And it makes me respect him. And this is an intriguing matchup. I think the build-up will really also help sell this pay-per-view. You know, get a few good press conference moments if the fuckers can ask the right questions. But it's a good, like, opener to the main card. You can even have as the feature bout. I think the matchup itself is going to be a big draw, but I don't think it's going to be really entertaining, the build-up, and the fight itself could be fun. But honestly, I think it's probably going to be a bit of a slow fight. I just think because of Covington, you know, especially in the last performance, I feel like it really showed that the time off and the rush really just put a halt to his usual, like, super intense pressure and volume and pace that he used to put on guys. That was nowhere to be fucking found in the Edwards fight until the last, 3 minutes. So, and I don't see him taking another year and change off, helping him. He's going to just get everything back, get back to fire, get back to pace and the pressure and the cardio. Like, I don't see that happening. So I could see it being a bit of a slow fight. Gary himself is a pretty slow technical fighter. I know he was pretty flashy when he first got to the UFC, but either way, it's a good fight to have on here and we all want to see it. But again, if Gary fought Shavkat, all due respect, and I wouldn't mind it. So moving on to what I think should be the feature prelim of this bout. I know it's a high stake. All the feature prelims I'm going to make, by the way, for all these cards, they're going to be high level. I'm trying to stack the cards on purpose, you know what I mean? But this is Michael Morales versus MVP, Venom Page. Like, this is a great fight. I think it'd be really fun on the feet. MVP wants somebody around early 2025. When did Morales fight? Like, literally like a month or two, right? Because that fucking brutal elbow to Magny. No, it couldn't have been a month or two. It was a while ago. I don't fucking know, but he fought recently. MVPs are on like that 14-15 range in the ranking. Morales is like that 10 through 12, I believe. So match them up, and then the winner after that, you know, you can kind of move up, get someone in the top 10. I mean, MVP been around the game for so long. I feel like people are already forgetting about him because, you know, only 2 fights in the UFC and lost his last one. I mean, when Chandler came to the UFC, fucking knocked out Hooker and then went to the title shot and was putting on all these amazing fights. And MVP is super entertaining. One of the best strikers still. Like, even now, like, he's still one of the best strikers in the UFC. So dynamic and so fun to watch, so quick, so confusing, unpredictable, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's great, but he's really got to kind of like defend that spot, you know? Michael Morales is a scary dude. He's really well-rounded, and he's one of the best up-and-coming prospects, not just in the UFC, but especially at welterweight. And welterweight is full of just up-and-coming killers right now that are finally starting to make their way in the rankings. And if MVP wants to hold down that spot, I know Morales is a bum, but let's match him up. Whether it goes a distance or it ends in a flash of KO, I think we're in for a treat anyways. So UFC 311, Makhachev versus Saryukian 2 is the headliner. Dvalishvili versus Nurmagomedov is the co-main. Yair Rodriguez versus Arnold Allen. Corey Sandhagen versus Henry Cejudo. Kobe Covington versus Ian Gary. Machado Gary. And Michael Morales versus MVP. So that's what I would do for 311. Now 312, I like this one. I like what I kind of got cooked right now. So I'm going to break this down. So the main event, this is the thing. So the main event for UFC 312, Duplessis versus Chimaev is on your screen, but I think you could easily, and this is what we're going to get, but you could easily put Duplessis versus Strickland 2 as well, because I think Duplessis versus Chimaev is the more exciting fight. I mean, Duplessis and Strickland the first time, it was a fun fight. It was really, really close. Most people thought Strickland won, and, you know, he beat Costa, you know, so it was a win in the meantime. And the argument for him to deserve the shot is totally there. You know, middleweight is finally, like, the contenders are really starting to fight amongst themselves, especially the young up-and-comers who rise in the ranks. So the division is figuring itself out. Chimaev is the clear next number one contender, and Strickland is there, you know, has been deserving of the shot as well. So those two, I mean, Duplessis versus Strickland makes sense, because not only does Strickland deserve it, here's the fucking thing, you guys, I deserve this shot. We're gonna go to fucking war for you guys. Chimaev, I don't even think it's recency bias, though. Like, he is the guy right now. He just fucking took out Whitaker in a round. I just don't know how you make a bigger statement than that. So if Chimaev has to wait until later in the year, I feel like that's pretty fair. But because obviously his spot is pretty much locked in, this is like, he's deserving because he took out Whitaker, but he's also like the guy they want to give the shot to. So let's have this be the headliner: Duplessis versus Chimaev. Or if Chimaev, wants to wait till later in the year, then let's do Duplessis versus Strickland. That also totally makes sense. Moving on, the co-main: Volkanovski versus Lopez. There's like rumors of this one happening, but the problem with Volk versus Lopez is that it kind of puts a halt on what to do with Topuria because they really want him to return around April, May for Spain. So that's like the problem with this fight. But in terms of like who should be next for Ilya, I feel like this is what you should do, because Topuria versus Volk 2 right now is just not intriguing people. Volk is my favorite fighter, and I mean that genuinely. He's my favorite fighter, and no matter what, I would love to see him go back to the top. But it's just when you have somebody who just got knocked out brutally, and then he's entering the cage like, I'm next, and then they're hugging and shit. Like, it's just, it doesn't really hype you up because you know that this guy just got knocked out. When you have Volk on the older side of things and hasn't fought since, like, I know he's the featherweight GOAT, but it can only like hype up people so much. So I thought the idea with Volk versus Lopez, let's get the ball rolling. If Volk can go out there and beat Lopez, he's pretty much shown, no, like, I'm not in it. You still fought a good version of me. And even right now, February 2025, you're still getting the best version of Alexander Volkanovski. Maybe not the best version, but if you beat Lopez, it proves he's still in it, because Lopez, behind Volk, is the next legit contenders. Lopez doesn't need to fight anyone else. He deserves the shot, but unfortunately, Volk and Topuria, Holloway, all this shit, Evloev and Sterling are fighting each other. The rest of them kind of need to figure it out amongst themselves, start fighting each other. And it's just like, the division needs to play out. And I don't want to see Makhachev versus Topuria just yet. I think it's a great fight, but still, so Volk and Lopez fighting each other to find out the next number one contender. If Lopez wins, he beats a legend, and that gets the Lopez-Topuria fight even more hyped up. And if Volk wins, he proves to all of us that he's still fucking in it, and that the title shot is even more deserved. But I get it. I want to risk everything, because if Volk does lose, then he's not getting another shot. Probably ever. So I get it. We're just being greedy as fuck, dude. But I don't know. So that's ideally the co-main. Moving on to what I would say would be the feature bout: Israel Adesanya versus Caio Borralho or Nasruddin Imavov. I didn't really know which one to pick, because I feel like you could put in either one. I know Borralho versus Adesanya is the matchup I feel like more people have been talking about, and it's a great one. Either way, you're giving one of these upcoming prospects. They're finally both in the top 5, I believe, and put them against Izzy. Izzy wants to fight early next year. It's a Sydney card. It makes perfect sense. Imavov just fought in September. Borralho fought August great performance against Cannonier. So it's just like, Borralho is more of like a well-rounded fighter. So if you want to give that matchup to Izzy, that'd be really fun. Seeing how he'd mix it up on the ground, seeing the exchanges on the feet, that'd be super great. And then Imavov is primarily more of a striker. So if you want, I feel like that's a more favorable matchup kind of towards Izzy. Maybe I'm wrong for that, but I don't know. So if they wanted to do classic kind of like striker versus striker matchup, whatever the fuck, maybe do that. But I would rather say the Borralho fight. I just couldn't pick one. So I was like, and I feel like you could just put it in whatever. I wouldn't feel like it'd make too much of a difference, like draw wise. I mean, Izzy looked great against DDP. I had DDP winning that fight. I thought he was going to win going into it, but Izzy really surprised me. Like, I didn't expect him to look that sharp and that quick and that like in it. I mean, he took arguably 2 rounds off of DDP in that 4-round fight. So moving on. It's weird having this guy, Adesanya and Volk, all in non-title fights, but Usman versus Jack Della Maddalena. I'm going to touch lightly on this one. Usman hasn't fought all of 2023. Kind of a bummer, but I get it. He was on top of the fucking world, super fucking active, fought killers, and JDM, he's been out. It's super unfortunate because him versus Shavkat would have ideally been made late 2024, but JDM, I feel like, is one of those prospects that is just not being talked about right now, and I get it because welterweight is full. Not just welterweight, but the UFC right now. We're literally watching a generation changing over into the next, and Usman, if he wants to fight, I thought him versus Buckley would have made sense, but fuck it, let's do Usman versus JDM. This one's being rumored to go down there anyways. I think it makes perfect sense for both guys. Usman can win this fight. JDM can win this fight. And if JDM does win, I mean, he's clearly next for the shot. So up next, Kai Kara France versus, I say, the winner of Brandon Moreno and Amir Albazi. That fight's going down tomorrow. I have Albazi, I think, winning that fight, but who knows what's going to happen. So I think Kara France, Kaya Sakura's getting the next title shot, and these flyweights, I mean, Pantoja's already beaten half of them, or more than half of them, so it's just like, we're just going to get a fuck ton of rematches lately and shit. So if we do see Kara France versus Moreno, that's a rematch, and if we get Kara France versus Albazi, that's a rematch, and Kara France fucking got robbed that first one. So it is weird kind of putting Kara in a rematch, but I feel like that's just what we're doing lately with all of these fucking flyweights, outside the top 10. I mean, we're starting to fucking cook, and even outside the top 15, there's so many prospects coming up. I know we have Tatsuro Taira, but he's kind of the only one we have in the top 10. The rest are kind of super active right now. They're all fighting each other. They're all trying to prove points, make statements, and they're all rising the ranks. And like, I love it. I think flyweight in the next couple of years is really going to start heating up because these prospects coming up right now, you know, we're finally going to stop seeing, you know, the kind of the bit of the same names. Nothing wrong with the same names. The Brandon Royvals, Brandon Morenos, whatever the hell, all those top guys in that division, like Kai Kara France himself. Like, there's nothing wrong with these guys, but it's just we need someone fresh. Maybe Royval gets the shot after Asakura, and then whatever happens with these guys, I don't fucking know. I don't know, because flyweight is just in some weird dud right now, but just book it. Anyway, so moving on to Steve Erceg versus Alex Perez is what I think should be the feature prelim. Another flyweight bout. This is a winnable fight for both guys. Perez has kind of been in like a win one, lose two situation, win one, lose three situation. So like, I know he just lost to like Tatsuro Taira, and he didn't even look bad in that fight. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. Taira is like the best prospect in the division right now, but Erceg coming off a rough loss to the guy we just talked about, Kai Kara France. So I don't want to see this become like a Dominic Reyes situation. Oh, he beat the guy, he beat this champ, and like he deserves it, he got robbed, and then they lose fucking 4 in a row. I don't want... There's been other examples of that as well. It's crazy how that's kind of just a thing that goes down. Like, oh, super close decision with the champion, where are they going to go after this? And then they fucking lose all their fights. It's tough, man. It's happened. And I don't want to see Ursa become that case, especially because, you know, he's got a lot of potential. People like this guy. You know, he kind of put himself on the map at, what was it, like UFC 304? Whatever the one in Brazil was. No, 301. Shit, yeah, I'm sorry. UFC 301. Put himself on the map, gained a lot of new fans, got a lot of new eyes on him. I mean, people knew about him before as kind of being one of the better prospects rising, but kind of just really elevated himself. So if Perez wins, then Erceg, dude, we got to start getting you guys outside the rankings if we want to get the hype back up. But if Erceg beats Perez, you know, gets to still move up in the rankings or stay at the same spot. So I like to see it. So UFC 312 in Sydney, main event either being Duplessis versus Strickland or Duplessis versus Chimaev. Volk versus Lopez as the co-main. Izzy versus Barajo or Imavov, just pick and choose. Usman versus JDM. Kai Kara France versus Moreno or Obalzi, whoever wins that one. Sorry, it's a rematch, guys. I'm sorry that's probably not valid, but it's just... And then the feature prelim is Steve Erceg versus Alex Perez. So moving on to UFC 313. We don't know where this one's going to be held. I got some, I feel like, controversial ones on here. I feel like before I wasn't saying anything too probably wild, but this one I'm trying to cook. I got a vision for y'all. I'm gonna break it down, okay? I think the main event should be Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane Alexander Volkov winner. I know they're about a rematch in December. March could be a quick turnaround, so if this wants to be at like a later card, that's fine. I'm going to explain why I have this on here as the main event. First of all, I mean, I think Gane versus Volkov, I think whoever wins that fight totally deserves the shot against Aspinall, because Jones and Stipe in a couple weeks, they're going to do their double retirement. Aspinall's going to be promoted to undisputed champ, and Aspinall can finally fucking be active again. Aspinall was an active fighter before the injury and before waiting for Jones. He literally had defended the fucking interim title, dude. So finally, I mean, if he rematches Volkov, it'd be intriguing, and I think Volkov's going to win the fight against Gane, but Gane versus Aspinall, I feel like it's a fight that people have been talking about for a couple of years that somehow we've never really gotten, so that'd be really intriguing. It'd be a draw, and Tom Aspinall is the fucking guy right now. Give him that slot. The co-main. This is where shit gets tricky, all right? The co-main is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. This, I'm just writing shit. All right? I know they would never have Alex Pereira as a co-main, okay? He's too big of a draw. He is the face of the UFC right now, and I get it. So, and I know that's not likely. Having just Aspinall and Pereira on the same card, like if Pereira beats Ankalaev and Aspinall beats whoever, or Aspinall doesn't even need to win, like whoever wins the heavyweight title fight, if Pereira beats Ankalaev, then there's nothing else for him at light heavyweight, and he literally can't make the fucking cut down anymore to middleweight. It's too much. He's too big. He's a fucking hefty bag. You can't do that anymore. Alex Pereira versus Nikita Krylov next. No, fucking no. So I wasn't super big on him going up to heavyweight a couple fights ago, but that was a couple fights ago, and he's proven a lot already since. I just wanted to see Pereira go against the top grappler in the division, and which is crazy. I get that, you know, Ankalaev's last name ends with EV and his first name's Magomed, so people think he's some big daggy grappler, but he's actually primarily a striker, and it makes sense to have it on the same card, because then like, oh, Pereira just won, so who's gonna be next up for Pereira at this heavyweight title fight? Like it makes sense, and like that Aspinall versus Gane Volkov is gonna be the first heavyweight title fight without Jones. Thank God, like for the past couple years, because that whole division's been stalled. So I'll stop ranting about those two. So that's the main and the co-main. So what I think another one I should be put on here: Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, the trilogy. I was kind of thinking that you should do Gaethje versus Hooker, but I feel like Holloway versus Hooker for like International Fight Week in the summer, I feel like that would be better. Gaethje versus Hooker, if you want to do that as well, that's totally valid. That's a slugger. That's a super fun fight. But both these guys want to return around like that February, March, or April range. They've gone on a record and like listing out all the opponents that they want, and they're both down to fight each other. So why not run it? I know that a lot of people are against them doing the trilogy. I kind of get it because you want new, fresh matchups, especially for both guys individually. But and I get that, and that's totally fair. So if you don't like this matchup, I don't blame you. But I just know it's gonna be fun, dude. Both of these guys could retire after this fight, and it just has like such a like ending feel to it, you know, like the ending of the story vibe. Like after all of this, here they are once again. Ain't no BMF title on the line this time and all that shit. But like it's high stakes, man. You know, it's Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. You know, both of them could fucking retire. One of them could, or neither of them could. You have no idea at this point in their careers. It's a good fucking scrap. So moving on, Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. I originally wanted to see Khalil Roundtree versus Jamal Hill, so if you want to throw that in here instead, you can. But Prochazka versus Hill. I mean, this fight has been one of those fights where we've been talking the last couple of years about matching these guys up, but it somehow never got done because of fucking all these circumstances going down in this division. So let's match him up. If Prochazka wins, you know, he's still put on the map, and I feel like everyone is just overlooking Hill, shitting on Hill, forgetting about Hill. I get that he's like literally one of the most unlikable people in the UFC, but like he could beat Prochazka, and if he does, he's really gonna find like, you know, it's good for him, and he's going to put himself back on the map. So I like this fight. People forget, man, but people are forgetting that Hill is still dangerous. I think Prochazka will be a pretty sizable favorite in this matchup, but I could just see Hill taking him out. I could see that being a real thing. Two top 5 light heavyweights going at it. One of them's going to keep their spot up there, and the other one's going to lose it. And they're both former champs. It could be a draw. So moving on, we got a welterweight bout between Sean Brady and Joaquin Buckley. I kind of mentioned earlier that I wanted to do Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley initially, but seeing how everything's playing out, I just feel like Usman versus JDM kind of makes more sense now, but I did like that fight initially. So Brady's in the top 5. Buckley deserves a shot at the top 5. Let's do Brady versus Buckley. Brady is one of the most elite grapplers in the division. Buckley can clearly hold his own on the ground, but he's definitely going to have the advantage on the feet. So let's see, you know, how that fight's going to play out. Because Buckley's been looking fucking dangerous, you know? Like, what is he, 4-0, 5-0 at welterweight right now? He's on a tear. Brady, undefeated in his whole career, besides to the guy that's the champion of the division right now. They both want to keep rising the ranks. Makes sense to kind of match them up for each other. They're kind of both in this weird bubble right now, so fucking combine the bubbles. That's probably a shitty way to put it, but I don't know. I actually think it's an intriguing matchup. Let's see if Buckley can take him out on the feet and if Brady can hold him down on the ground. So moving on to what I think should be the feature prelim of this card. This is tough because I feel like this is a really high level like feature prelim to have, but you know what? We're stacking these cards. These are the dream cards, so we're just saying fuck it. So Lerone Murphy versus Josh Emmett. I say book him, man. I think this is the fight that should be made next anyways. I mean, Murphy called him out. Where has Emmett been, dog? Where has this motherfucker been, bro? You just don't hear from this guy, and all of a sudden you get this random ass fight announcement out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh, I guess Emmett's back. I don't know where he is. I haven't heard about injuries or anything. Just haven't heard from him at all. Murphy undefeated, just came off a great win against Ige, and he definitely, you know, what is he ranked? Like number 10 right now? He definitely deserves that top 10. Definitely could be a fight night main event worthy for sure. Crowd or Apex, doesn't matter. Otherwise, it's a nice matchup. So UFC 313, Tom Aspinall versus Gunnar Volkov is the main event. Pereira versus Ankalaev is the co-main. I know that sounds fucking crazy. I'm sorry, guys. Gaethje versus Poirier 3, Prochazka versus Hill, Brady versus Buckley, and Murphy versus Emmett, and that is UFC 313. Guys, which I'm sorry for the fucking yap sesh, but thanks so much for tuning in, guys. All to Smoke MMA. Let me know where I hit. Let me know where I flopped. Some of these matchups, I understand, are a lot better than others, but tried to cook. Seemed like a fun video idea. I enjoyed making this one, and I feel like we're on the cusp of a lot of upcoming announcements, especially after 309 ends. So, yeah, let me know what you guys thought. All to Smoke MMA. I appreciate you guys. Let's try and get to 1,000 subs before 2028.